Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to use your iPhone camera to the best of its ability. There's a whole bunch of settings. Like if you go into your settings for your iPhone camera, it can get a little bit confusing. And that's why we're here to clear it up for you so you can get the best quality footage right off the bat. All right, let's jump into it. When you open up the camera settings in iOS, the first thing you're going to see is format. When you open up the format settings, you're going to see something called high efficiency versus most compatible. Now what this basically means is high efficiency is basically a format that Apple uses, but it compresses it down so it's more efficient essentially. So my recommendation is if you're going to basically be filming stuff and just keeping it on your iPhone and maybe just sharing it from your iPhone, sure, go with the high efficiency because you're going to save a lot more space on your phone by doing so. But if you plan on putting it onto your computer and editing it and sharing it with different computers or anything like that, or phones, then probably best to go with the most compatible option, which will enable you to have a more compatible format for your footage across the board. All right, so we're gonna be looking at basically record video settings. Now, when we go in here, basically people ask me, okay, what kind of frame rate should I use? What kind of quality should I use? My advice is if your phone doesn't have that much space, stick with the 1080p HD, and that will give you a lot more space on your phone. However, if you do have the space, I always highly recommend going with the best quality possible, which in this case with the iPhones is 4K. Now in 4K, which frame rates do I use? There's like a whole bunch. Now if you want more cinematic feeling footage, go with 24 frames per second. If you want something that's a little more lifelike, a little more relatable, 30 frames per second is pretty good because it adds a little bit less motion blur, makes it feel a little more realistic. For example, this video is filmed in 4K 30 frames per second. However, the last video I filmed on this channel is in 4K 24. Now 4K 60. 4K 60 is basically use it if you want your audience to feel like they're right there with you. It's a little bit jarring if you ask me, which is why I kind of stay away from 4K 60 just for regular recording, but the 4K 60 is good to use to slow down footage. I'm just kidding, that's not slow motion. I don't know why I did that. Next settings we're gonna talk about is slow motion. Now slow motion is all about taste. Like if you overuse it, it can look a little bit tacky, so use it to your discretion. Now which option do you choose? I personally like to stick with the 120 frames per second slow motion because it's ample slow motion. If I'm filming at 4K 24, then the 120 frames per second gives me about like 5 times slow, which is more than enough for my needs. The next setting I'd like to talk about is preserve settings. Now preserve settings, basically what it does is every time you open up your camera app, it will keep the same settings that you used the last time. And you have the option of selecting several different options in here. The only ones that I don't have turned on are creative controls and exposure adjustment because I'm going to be filming in different situations in different areas and I don't really want to preserve the exposure adjustment that I made for the last scene or the last area. But I do have the camera mode turned on just because if I'm constantly filming video, I don't want to open up the app and every time go back and swipe like right or left to go into the video settings again and then film in video. With this, I can turn off the camera app, turn it back on, and it'll still be in the same video setting. All right, so the next setting I want to talk to you guys quickly about is called grid. Now I'll teach you how you can use the grid in order to follow a photography rule called the rule of thirds. Okay, so once you turn on grid, you're just going to see these grid lines go across the camera. Basically the rule of thirds basically tells you that you should place the subjects of interest at the intersecting points of this grid. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 over here. So let's say if I wanted to take a photo of this drone, I should kind of place it over there and then take this photo. Now when I take my photo, the viewer attention is kind of drawn to that drone along with a little bit of interest on the background. Now that's basically what the rule of thirds says. Now you can also kind of use this grid in order to position something right in the middle of the frame. So if I wanted to center this, then I could center it right at the middle of that box and then take that photo, and then that will give me a photo of the drone right in the middle. The next option here in settings is view outside the frame. So when you turn this on, basically you see how even though there's a frame right around here, that is basically what my 1x camera is going to capture, which is right inside that box right here. However, you can still see under the camera controls a little bit of the frame outside of it. So I can basically see parts of this lamp at the back and the end of the table over here. Now what that means is if I go into my wide camera, So now whatever I saw which was behind the camera controls is now inside the square box, telling you that that is the composition now. So this is kind of cool, but it can get pretty distracting. Like if you're trying to take a photo, you kind of don't want to sometimes see all the stuff on the side, but that's up to you. It's pretty much just a preference. All right guys, so that about sums up some of the camera settings that I wanted to go through with you on the iPhone in the settings app. So if you found this video helpful, this was just part one of a series that I want to do here, where we talk about the actual camera settings in the settings app. In the next video, part two, which will probably come out next week, it's going to be all about using all the settings within the actual camera apps. So if you like this one, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel so you guys can see the next one that comes out. And with that, if you like this video, please go ahead and give us a like down below. Share it with your friends and family who will also be able to hopefully take better pictures of you when you come over to their family reunions next time. But yeah, in any case, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care and stay blessed.